Thank you so much for joining, James Warnia. You're muted.
I said my pleasure. Thanks for having me here.
Our honor. Just waiting for the YouTube to settle and we'll jump into it. Thank you so much for joining, James Warnia. Okay, so DTM Farhaz.
Yes, sir. Do you want me to do the honors? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining yet another webinar in our Old is Gold series. Today is the 9th in the series, and this series has been growing from strength to strength. And today, to take us through the rest of the program, I have a great privilege in introducing our president. This gentleman, amongst his very numerous roles in the district and maybe even beyond, he's also the president of Bahrain Advanced Toastmasters. He's the club group director of District 20, and from what I have just found out, he's been coaching a club behind our backs. And my reports that have reached me say that this club is based out of Bahrain, and the rover that's roving around Mars is his invention. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together to welcome DTM Khalid Abdallah, the president of Bahrain Advanced Toastmasters. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, DTM Farhaz Farouk. That was also not expected. Let me recognize the presence of immediate past Region 11 advisor, DTM Ali Shahbaz Ali. Both of the speakers, DTM Santia and DTM Swarnia, thank you so much for joining us here. All of the members of Bahrain Advanced Toastmaster Club and guests, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and definitely not yet good night. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us here today in our special edition of the Old is Gold. And the idea behind Old is Gold was invented by none other than our Vice President of Education, the ever energetic Vice President of Education, who has been so instrumental in so many ways. The idea was brought to the ExCom. Why don't we go back to those old abandoned manuals of the club success series and the leadership excellence series and bring them back on board with nice workshops and blend them with our own experience. And that's where this whole thing was started. And honestly, we did not even think that this would have such a huge success. We started with the members of the club, exchanging our own knowledge between ourselves, and then we expanded. And the whole idea behind the Old is Gold is really evolving. And every meeting that we attend is even better than the previous one. And the standards getting higher and higher. And I think we are taking this into totally different levels. So please watch out for the next episodes as well of this meetings. Bahrain Advanced Toastmaster Club, for those who don't know much about Bahrain Advanced Toastmaster Club, Bahrain Advanced Toastmaster Club is the first advanced Toastmaster Club in the Middle East, if not even Region 11. We are proud here to be members of Bahrain Advanced Toastmaster Club, and DTM Farhaz said, the president. It's really an honor to be a president of this elite club with this elite Toastmasters, and I'm really honored to be called the president of Bahrain Advanced Toastmaster Club. It comes with responsibility as well, and that's what we are doing here. We are evolving, we are trying our best during such difficult time. Initially, when we were chatting, I was really happy to see DTM Hisham jumping in because we are sharing the same experience as club coaches into another club. And I was just wondering, between those few words that we exchanged, what makes the difference between a club that is striving or thriving and a club that is not making it during such times? And this is maybe the question that I would shoot to Bahrain Advanced Toastmaster Club. Yes, we are on 18 members. We started with 20. We are 2 more members to get back to where the place that we were. But there is a reason behind why are we doing what we are doing. When I sent a message today early morning saying, reminding our members to join the Old is Gold. Yes, we meet, our official meeting, by the way, is just once a month. But we've been utilizing the virtual platform to the fullest. Why not? Why not? Now we can engage members all over across the globe. So why not? And this is where the Old is Gold came in. And I don't want to ruin the surprises that are coming. There are more meetings coming in for a simple reason. We want to add value to our members of Bahrain Advanced Toastmaster Club. We want to send hope to those who feel that we are in those small boxes, that we cannot do much during such difficult times. We are here, ambassadors of Bahrain Toastmasters Advanced Toastmaster Club, and we are making it in style. What else would any member of Bahrain Advanced Toastmaster Club and across board would want to have? We are here with the theme of this term, advancing a legacy. Bahrain Advanced Toastmaster Club is a legacy on our shoulders that we are advancing. Kudos to all of the members of Bahrain Toastmasters Club for having that honor. I wouldn't say responsibility, it's an honor to be Bahrain Advanced Toastmaster Club. And honor is mine as well to be Bahrain Advanced Toastmaster Club president. And for those guests, you're that close to get there, to be called a proud member of Bahrain Advanced Toastmaster Club. Thank you so much for all of the guests for being here. Thank you so much for being here, for showing us that hope that we have, that we need, and we expand during such difficult times. And let's enjoy today's session. I see the MC is here, so let me just, before jumping into the backup MC, Vice President of Education, can you please confirm whether our MC is here? I can see Toastmaster.
Our MC is definitely here. It's DTM Ali Shahbaz, our timer is here, Toastmaster Vidat Hijazi. Both our speakers are here. All the guests are here. So I guess it's a go, Mr. President.
Great, great. So let me introduce this icon of Bahrain Advanced Toastmaster Club. Bahrain Advanced Toastmaster Club was chartered in 2004, and the chartering president is just in front of us, DTM Ratinder now. As with any other clubs, we have our own highs and lows. And Bahrain Advanced Toastmaster Club came into the lowest point ever for the club. And the club was that close to just close. That close to just close. Okay, it's rhythmic. And I call him, although he is not a chartering member, but he is chartering president, but he is also the president that took this club to the level that we see it today here. We are really proud of having DTM Ali Shahbaz as a member among us. We are proud to have him as a leader. We are proud to learn from each and every single word that he utters in Bahrain Advanced Toastmaster Club. Please help me welcome our Master of Ceremonies today, immediate past Region 11 advisor, DTM Ali Shahbaz Ali. You're muted, DTM Ali.
Thank you very much, our club president and club growth director. One thing I can promise everybody, our club growth director in District 20 is the most slimmest director ever, though he's club growth. But when he becomes a PQD, we can surely make some new lab experiments on his skeleton. That's the journey he's heading towards. A very nice gentleman. I personally call him the Pink Panther with a thobe. The thobe is the Arabic traditional dress. A very cute president, great heart, and always here to help us all. Thank you, Mr. President, for your positive vibes always. As Mr. President was talking about Bahrain Advanced Toastmasters clubs, friends, there is a history behind Old is Gold series. Being an advanced club, we just had one regular meeting a month, and that's all about it. But when lots of people started challenging advanced clubs, not just in the Middle East, but around the world, sometimes I see people commenting on Toastmasters International Facebook page, you are an advanced club, what can you provide us? Here is where our BP Education, Farhas Farooq, he has this fishing net where he gets mermaids, sea pirates, as good as Johnny Depp from everywhere and brings them to Bahrain Advanced Toastmasters Club. So much of experiences being exchanged in Old is Gold series, and it enlightens the members and the guests from around the world. Sometimes you will see we touching 15 in the audience, sometimes more than 50, sometimes 30, and it keeps growing. But let me tell you, if you look at this 30 plus, they are from different parts of the world. So many different intelligence, many different ideas are coming today to our house from different parts of the world. The agenda is something like this for today. We are going to have two great speakers and then a question answer session towards the end. One of the sessions, we are going to have two demo speakers as well. So there's a lot to offer this evening. Let's get started. Is everybody ready for the Old is Gold series? Good, thanks for the thumbs up. Our first speaker is a financial advisor by profession and uses financial literacy as a way to help her clients in their financial planning. Her Toastmasters journey started in June 2017. Currently member of Katong Toastmasters and Orators for Life Toastmasters Club in District 80 and Leaders Worldwide Toastmasters in District 57. In 2018, she started off as a Vice President of Public Relations in a support role, and in 2019, she took up the Vice President of Education role in Katong Toastmasters Club. In 2020, she is Club President of Katong Toastmasters Club and also Division Z Director in District 80. This term, she is a club coach of Sing Health Toastmasters Club, club advisor for Orators for Life, club mentor for SAP Toastmasters Club. I need a tissue, I'm sweating already, oh my God. Wow, how many things she has in her basket, beautiful. So she is club mentor for SAP Toastmasters and club sponsor for ICAI Toastmasters Club, CG Toastmasters Club. For District 57, she's currently doing the role of club ambassador to help a club in the district to guide them achieve education goals. In her contest path, she is a sought after chief judge and has been CJ from club to division level contest. Toastmasters has opened up opportunities for her to share her thoughts and ideas worldwide, and we can definitely see that. COVID-19, she believes COVID-19 has opened up opportunities for her to share her learnings and experiences to fellow Toastmasters across borders. She is none other than our first beautiful presenter, Suvarna Kalyan. Suvarna Kalyan is going to speak about art of evaluation.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. Can I share screen?
Yes, it's open for all. Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. How are you all doing today?
We are never better.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here. And thanks for this opportunity. As I said in my introduction, of course, I'm so happy to be able to meet fellow Toastmasters across borders and learn from each and every one of them. As we are sharing, we learn from each one of them. And I really like the idea of your old is gold, because I think as I was preparing for today, I realized that there was lots of learning for me itself trying to do these presentation. And I'm sure we can all learn more from as we progress today. Just to start off, how am I going to do this session? I will go through some of my sharings on the types that we can do on evaluation. And then I'm going to have our dear VPE, DTM Faraz Farouk, give a demo speech. At that junction, when he gives, I want to invite the audience. Give me two of them. Two of you can volunteer. Listen to his speech and let us implement what we learned in the workshop. How does it sound? I feel just me telling and you listening is not going to be effective. But trying to do what we learned is the best way to know where you have reached. And also for me, as a person who is here trying to share my knowledge, I know where those small gaps I missed out. So let's start off today with the art of evaluation. Okay, can you ask me what OiG is it that you want to learn today? Can I see some answers in the chat? Since I'm able to see only a few here on my screen. What are you looking forward to learning today in this art of evaluation? Yes, virtual speech evaluation. Yes, that's a beautiful one. Yes, effective, meaningful evaluations. Yeah, okay. I think I'm in that line. Yeah. Or anything else? Evaluate sweet speeches. Yes, that's right. How not to whitewash? Wow, that's something. Yes. How to motivate? Yes. Okay. Wow. So many. Yes. So we know how we have to proceed. Thank you so much. Okay. There was this quote that I thought was very good. Let me share this. It says, continuous improvement requires systematic evaluation. Continuous improvement requires unfiltered evaluation. As our MC asked, how not to whitewash, right? But at the same time, to make sure that we do not hurt anybody's self-esteem. So that is something that is important. Okay, so let's try and do that. So I know how to go about. Okay, now just a disclaimer, because I want to say I'm not an expert. I have just going to share what I have learned from my mentors, from all of the Toastmasters that I've been listening and trainings and workshops. So I just want to put that in and say, oh, I thought she was an expert. No, I'm also learning along with you. Okay, so now, before I go to this, can I know what normally when we think of evaluation, we think it is feedback. But I personally feel feedback and evaluations are two different things. Can someone tell me, you can unmute and tell, what is feedback and what is evaluation? What is the difference?
Well, I guess feedback is just a standard response, but an evaluation will probably weigh out what's good and bad and how to improve and so on. I mean, am I in the right direction?
Yes, you are in the right direction. Yeah. So feedback versus evaluation is basically where I'm giving my opinion, I'm giving my observation, and that's it, right? But when you're doing an evaluation, actually you're really going in like you're zooming into the speech. You are actually looking at it with your magnifying glass to see how you can help the speaker. You're also looking into the small, minute things like a microscope does. And of course, like the stethoscope, where you look for the feel of that speech. Because when you are a good speaker, you need to connect with the audience. And it becomes even more difficult in this virtual world, okay? Because we really don't get to see the person in directly. And so therefore, how do we do that? As I had this question which said, how do I evaluate in a virtual world? Yes. So that becomes difficult because we are not able to get that feel across on the platform. So how do we do that? So evaluation is basically trying to really go in and see how we can help the person improve. Now, the benefits of a good evaluation the speaker will benefit is, of course, you get immediate feedback. And then we also are offering methods of improvement. And then the best part about it is that when we do evaluations, we are telling them it's okay, you are where you are, you can move to a next level. We help you with telling you positively reinforcing instead of whitewashing, but trying to reinforce positively to say that you can improve and it is okay to be wherever you are, you can improve, building on your self-esteem. And Toastmasters is basically that. If you look at Toastmasters and any other organization, everywhere they do speeches. Okay, but this beautiful thing about evaluation is very unique to Toastmasters, and where we spend time looking, listening, actively listening to the speaker and trying to explain and find how we can give constructive feedback to the speaker. So the role of the evaluator is one is to motivate the person by telling, hey, you did a good job, or this, you did a good job. And then you facilitate them where you say, these are the things in your speech where you could have improved. And then, of course, comes the role of a counselor where you're not being on the face saying, ha, your speech was terrible. You are not fit to be a speaker. Instead, you say, yes, your speech was not up to mark, but you can do by improving on these factors. So therefore, you switch into a role of a counselor where you are providing a constructive feedback to the person so that they can do that speech again or do another speech again with the feedback they have received. Once we know these are the rules, then what happens is we have to understand how do we say that, right? Because one is telling on the face. And I just love this quotation where Winston Churchill says, actually, the tact of telling someone diplomatically is, he says, it's an ability to tell someone to go to hell in such a way that they look forward to that trip. Okay, so that is a skill that as evaluators we need to build. Okay, to tactfully tell someone that, hey, you are not in the right path or you need to improve, but at the same time, they don't feel that you've hurt their self-esteem. How now? I'm going to share with you a guide now. Can I request our VPE to share a workbook that I have shared with you so you can all download that and we can go through from here on steps that you can follow to evaluate.
Done, Toastmaster Prana.
Thank you. I would request the audience to download it too. Please use this because I have created a workbook so you can work on it as you listen to the demo speech. And so maybe we can apply what we have learned here. So basically, as an evaluator, you're looking to see how the speech was delivered, hear how it was done, and of course, how the feeling was. Okay, so how do we do that? I normally use this template. What do I do is I call it the S, H, and F template, where I put the positives and the negatives. Okay, it's there in your workbook. And what I look at is when someone is delivering a speech, I look for gestures, I look for eye contact. I see how the stage was used. In our case, our stage is limited to the screen now because we are virtual. So, how do we use? Can I still show my gestures here? Are you still able to see my body language? Are you able to see my eye contact? Okay, so these are the things. And if there is a visual aid, was it done properly? So, these are the things that I look for, which is done well and which can improve. And similarly, when it comes to hearing what is the vocal variety? Did I speak monotone? Or did I bring in that environment when I increase the volume, when I speak softly? Did I get your attention? These are things that go into how did the speech was it to my ears? And then, of course, the very important part in any speech, we normally think that speeches have to have a lot of words. Actually, not necessary. If you can pace it well, with less content also, but proper pauses, you can reach what you want to say. So, learning to pause at the right place and a correct pace will be just good for any speech, especially on the virtual world, because we have a challenge that I may think that everyone's network is at the same way that I am going. There could be delays or there could be drags that the other person is facing. And if I go too fast, there is going to be an issue of whether they heard me right. So, pace is very essential when you're doing virtual speeches. And then comes the feel. And the feel is basically about emotions. What emotions did you touch? Did you make me feel happy? Did you make me think? Did you make me cry? Or did you make me cheerful? Or you made me, what are the emotions that you brought out in that speech? And the flow of the speech, how was it? Was there a good introduction? Was there a body and then a conclusion? Was that flow good enough? Did you interact with the audience? Or the language that was used, and how engaging? And very importantly, what is the takeaway message? Any speech, whether it is a webinar like this or whether we are doing a 5 to 7 minute speech, every speech, friends, just remember, when you do a speech, it's not just to give something. You always have to keep in mind, what is it for the audience? They are spending time for you, with you, listening to you. There should be a takeaway. So, what is that takeaway? And be explicit about that takeaway. It could be a humorous speech, it can be a very sad speech, doesn't matter. But you have to have something for the audience to take away. So, these are how you address the feel. And when you find that these are missing, then you can say, okay, these are missing, these are there. And so now when I listen to the speech, more or less, I'm able to dot down. In that 5 minutes, I'm able to dot down. Oh, yeah, this is tick. This is not tick. So I know how it is done. So once I have this structure, then I go into what is the way am I going to deliver this speech? What is the structure? There are different structures to the evaluation speech. The very common one that many of us use is the hamburger method, or it's called as the CRC method. What C stands for is commend, recommend, and commend. Okay, why is it that we commend someone? As we said, we want to make sure that whoever is doing the speech, we want to make sure that we look at the positives first before we go into the negatives. because it makes the speaker feel comfortable. It helps them to boost their self-esteem. So we look at the commendation first, like the burger, right? You put the bread down and the meat inside is actually your recommendation. That is a takeaway for your speakers. What you're saying in that recommendation is what is the takeaway. So that is where the meat sits. And then, of course, you sandwich it back on top with another slice of bread where you say, oh, this is how it went. And so therefore, this is your takeaway. Okay, so that is the CDC method. Now, when it comes to commendation, what do we do? How do we say, what did you observe? Okay, and how did the speaker do it? And then you say, why is it important? And then when you saying recommendations, you say, what would the speaker have done better? And why is it important for him or her to do it? And how can the speaker do it? And that's where the experience comes. So if I'm an experienced speaker, then I can say, when I say, I think your vocal variety has to improve, then I have to take sections of the speech and say, in this place, you could have raised your volume, and then the impact would have been better. Or I can say, oh, you stop here so that you give us time to digest what you have said. So these are things that you can give when you say recommendation. You say why it is important. The second one is called as the ABC method. Similarly, I think our evaluation sheets are all structured on this. Okay, if you look at our typical evaluation sheet that we have, it will say, what did you do well? Awesome, great, you did all this, great. Okay, then we go into what can you do better? And then we challenge you to say, hey, challenge yourself to do this. Can you challenge yourself to look at the camera instead of looking at the screen, so that we feel you connect with the audience? So that is something that we give as a challenge. So this is the typical evaluation form that we see in Toastmasters. Most of them follow the ABC structure. And then comes the PAP. Now in Singapore, if I said PAP, people will think I'm talking about a political party, because PAP is the ruling party in Singapore. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about how we can make our speech, what was powerful in your speech, and how can you advance in your speech? What is the improvements that you can do? And how can you practice to put a few things so that you can take from this level in your speech to the next level? If you are good, make it a better speech. If you're a good speaker, become a great speaker. So how do you move from one level to another? Is the practice. So these are the three structures that we have. Okay. Now, of course, once you have the structure, once you have the what you have, how you've written your notes, okay, then comes how are you going to present. Okay, so there are different ways of presenting depending on the type of speech that you hear. If it was a performance-based speech, then you have to say, how did it go as far as the performance was there? Okay, if you're sharing, I did this, I went for a race, and this is what I did. And then you evaluate that speech based on that. And then if you say, if it is a response-based, sometimes we may say, hey, I want your response. I'm giving you something and I want you to respond. So then as an audience, we need to say, okay, in your speech as an audience, I felt that this was the response you expected from me. Is that correct? If it is not correct, then you need to change how you deliver. And then comes the learning, whether it was a learning. Like, for example, right now, my speech is basically a learning speech where I'm sharing with you different methods. So how do you evaluate something like this? What was the learning? Did it really meet your purpose? Did you really learn something? Is what the evaluator will have to look at. And last but not the least is the impact. A lot of times we do impact speeches. Like we had our club president who did, it was a very impactful speech where he talked about the club and what y'all are doing and how this webinar came about. So when we evaluate a speech like that, we look at and see how impactful was it? did it reach the audience as it's supposed to do? And what can be improved? So depending on the different types of speeches, we can do the speeches like this. Okay, before I go to the next one, let us invite our speaker, DTM Faraz Farooq, to give his speech. Okay, and I will stop my share so that I can see the audience. Okay, can I invite show of hands who would like to evaluate? Put into practice what you just heard.
Can I nominate? Okay, I can see raise of hand, so I'll keep quiet. But I was about to nominate DTM Hisham Jeffrey.
Okay, Hisham, yeah, okay. I think we have time, right? I think we have another 20 minutes. Do we have 20 minutes?
Yeah, we have 20 minutes. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks. So after your speech, we will have 2 evaluations, and then I can conclude on what my observations are. Is that okay? Okay, so we have Hisham Jeffrey and one more. Can I have one more? Khalid, maybe you can recommend your members someone.
I can see DTM Ratinder raising his hand. Yeah.
Okay. So we have 2 of them, right? Okay, so let us welcome DTM. Wait, let me go to his speech title. Okay, let me, Faraz, there's some background noise in your.
Yeah, I live very close to a road, so there are these little tuk-tuks that go past on and off.
Oh, okay, that's okay. That's okay. Yeah, that's okay. Okay. So
Let us. Colombo, what do I say?
Okay, let us welcome Faraz Farooq to deliver his speech title, I Beat Lance Miller. I Beat Lance Miller, DTM Faraz Farooq.
Don't we all love to win? And when this opportunity to win comes against a world champion, all the better. Madam, ladies and gentlemen, dear Toastmasters, good evening. I was thrilled when I found out that Lance Miller was visiting Bahrain for a district convention. I was looking forward to meeting him. I was looking forward to greeting him. And I was looking forward to beating him in something, anything. But there were a few problems. As a former world champion of public speaking, he was no longer eligible to participate in the international speech contest, so therefore that was out. I was a contestant in the humorous speech contest, but hey, Lance Miller did not qualify in our district. I couldn't beat him up outside the hotel because then I would have just got into trouble with the cops. When all these opportunities of beating Lance Miller seemed to vanish like a mirage, my savior came in the form of a phone call from the then PQD of our district, DTM Mohammed Salim. Brother, can you please take some of our guests on a tour of Bahrain? I said, yes, certainly I can. Who are these guests, brother? First Vice President Richard Peck, Cheryl Rose, and champion Lance Miller. I said, Lance Miller? The Lance Miller? Of course I will. Opportunity was knocking at my door and I was not going to let it go. I met the guests outside the hotel and showed them the sights and sounds of Bahrain. I showed them the bridge connecting Saudi Arabia to Bahrain. Then I took them to the camel farm where Papa camels and Mama camels were sitting under the hot Middle Eastern sun, teaching their baby camels camel things. Yum, yum, yum. And then I slowly drove around and took them to the Formula One track. When I was there, I suggested to my guests, shall we go for a race in the go-karting track? And they said yes. They fell right into my trap. Fully kitted, we looked at the safety instructions and got into our cars. And like a good man, I said, please, you all go ahead. I will follow you. And I could even hear them saying, what a nice man Faraz is. He is good, gracious, and generous to his guests. I was not good, gracious, or generous. I was just being cunning. Only if they go before me can I monitor the times of every racer on the big screen next to the pavilion. As the race progressed, one thing was clear. This race was just between me and Lance Miller. With every lap, Lance Miller was speeding up. So I also started speeding up. He gains a few milliseconds, I gained a few milliseconds. He gained a few more milliseconds, I gained a few more milliseconds. He gained a lot of milliseconds. And then I told myself, listen Faraz, this is it, last lap. It's now or never. You have to give it your all. So I held the steering wheel with all my might, stepped on the gas, and I tore around the racetrack as if there was no tomorrow. And at the end, I had the best time in the race. I beat Lance Miller. There I stood on the winner's podium, looking at the big screen, which now read, number 1, Faraz Farooq. Number 2, Lance Miller. 3, 4, 5, 6, a whole bunch of other losers. And I was savoring this moment of glory. When the euphoria and the adrenaline died down, we got into the car and we were headed back home. On the way, I still had to have a dig at the world champion. So I looked at him and said, hey, Lance, I beat you. Do you know what Lance Miller said? Were we racing? Lance Miller asked a simple question. Were we racing? A simple question of 3 words is all it took for Lance Miller to kick me out of my world of illusion and bring me back to reality. Here I was all pumped up and competitive, and Lance Miller did not even know I was racing him. Ladies and gentlemen, the mood in the car became a lot more sober after that, and we spent the rest of the journey discussing what had just happened. And Lance Miller said, hey, listen Faraz, this looks like a great story. Maybe you can put it into a script, try it out. You might even win. Lance Miller, the man I wanted to beat, wants me to win. Friends, how many of us are in such delusionary races with other people and they don't even know we are in a race with them? These races could be against family, friends, colleagues, companions. These races could be personal, professional, physiological, psychological. Life is not a race, my dear friends. Life is a journey. And the people we meet in our life are not our competitors. These are our companions. These are our partners. In fact, when they see us needing help, they will voluntarily help us. So why shouldn't we also do the same with them? Friends, the day started out with me taking my guests out on a tour of Bahrain. But what I got was a tour of humanity. I showed them a bridge connecting Saudi Arabia to Bahrain. What I found was a bridge connecting my mind to reality. I showed them Papa and Mama camels teaching baby camels camel things. I learned human things. Ladies and gentlemen, it's very easy for me to say I beat Lance Miller. But it's very difficult for me to say I beat myself. The only person we should be all competing against is the one we see in the mirror every single day. Next time you see this person, look that person in the eyes and tell them, hey, I beat you yesterday, I will beat you today, and I will beat you tomorrow. Madam, over to you.
Wow, powerful speech. You only compete with yourself. Fantastic. Such a great message, right? That is a great takeaway for all of us. I know I can't ask the evaluators who volunteered to say, just do the evaluation now. I can give you a couple of minutes. But let us, in the meantime, find out what is it that was immediately that we felt from this message. What was your takeaway? For me, was compete with yourself. Apart from so many things that he said, right? About being human, about being not competitive, but to be looking at people as companion. There were so many, but the end is for me is I want to compete only with myself. And I think that is such a strong takeaway for me. What about you? Anyone? Our president? I can't compete in losing weight with you, so I'm not even getting in there.
No, for me, I think it was a brilliant speech. I don't want to ruin. I think DTM Hisham is about to jump in evaluating. I do have my own evaluation. But the thing that really stuck in my head was the last act that he did. And okay, I don't want to jump in there because I know that DTM Hisham might want to pick on that, but over to you.
Yeah. Okay, Hisham, over to you, DTM Hisham, for his evaluation of Faraz's speech.
Don't we all love to win? It's a question that we would all like to say no, but in truth, the answer is always yes. Madam Presenter, fellow Toastmasters, my friends at Bahrain Advanced Toastmasters, good afternoon to you. The speech started off in a traditional manner, grabbing the attention of the audience with that tried and tested method, the question, don't we all want to win? What I like about this question is, although what we say is something, but internally we may feel something else. Nice way to start the speech with those 5 words. And then I, as a lover of words, I really like good crafting of words. And some of the great crafting was this: good, gracious, and generous. Meeting, greeting, and beating. 2 things are great about that because that's a rhyming triad, a rule of 3 combined with rhymes. And if you look a little further, you will find it has alliteration as well. 3 words, but great crafting that shows that the speaker has prepared this particular presentation. And number 3, the speech was liberally sprinkled with humor, and my favorite was Lance Miller did not qualify in our district. Now, as a Toastmaster and someone who knows the world champions, to a Toastmaster, that is a typical rib tickler, of course. And that exaggeration gave wonderful humor. And that was the quality of humor sprinkled throughout the speech. And then specifically with regard to the vocal variety, I do like the fact that he was brave enough to mimic Mr. Fix-It, DTM Mohammed Salim. Brother Faraz, can you please take around the world champion? Since his term is coming to an end, I believe that vocal variety went really well. I think DTM Salim his tentacles may not reach all the way up there. And then these particular gestures, knocking, looking forward, meeting, beating, those gestures matched the words and were inserted and injected at the appropriate time. And then this visual words, and my favorite one being hot Middle Eastern sun. In April, already we are suffering with summer, and that, at least to us in this audience, it brings home the truth, and it was a very visual word. We all say that you should utilize the power of the pause, and one particular place where the speaker DTM Faraz amply and aptly used the pause was this. Lance Miller asked me, were we racing? The pause before the question and the pause after the question amplified the value of the question. But just as he was racing around the F1 track and beating Lance Miller, it's also nice to give some additional fuel and nitrous oxide to supercharge this particular speech. And I have these couple of suggestions. And the first one is, if the speech is to be given to a non-Toastmaster audience, I would suggest that the title be changed, I Beat the World Champion, because only 350,000 people in the world, I hope, would know Lance Miller. And judging by past experience, it might actually be less. Number two, the speech went at a fast tempo for about 65% of the speech. And then the pauses and the real intensity of that speech only came through after the race was over. So if that roller coaster could start a little bit earlier, that tempo could be maintained and the attention grab could be a little bit more apt. And finally, there was one particular place where the gesture did not match the word, and that was, I was kicked out. Lance Miller kicked me out. So the hand gesture was not apt with the word gesture. And finally, for me, this final point was actually covered by the presenter herself. Among many messages, the message for me was compete with yourself. But in a speech, one speaker, one speech, one message. 7 minutes is limited. What was the takeaway message? Was it compete with yourself? Was it understand your competition? Was it look for quality and not the competition? What was the message? Hone the message, craft the conclusion. Not only Lance Miller, other people around the world will be in danger of that F1 racer that we all know as DTM Faraz Farooq. I wish you all the best. Back to you, man.
Fantastic evaluation. Thank you so much, DTM Machine. The second person who volunteered?
DTM Ratinder.
Oh,
you're muted, DTM Ratinder.
Yes, ma'am, I am here. Madam Swarna Kalyan, fellow Toastmasters. One thing before any speech starts is I look for the start and the title. And in this matter, our friend DTM Faraz is very big in this. He crafts his speech in such a way that the title and his startup gets, attached to each other. So I was wondering when he started with I beat Lance Miller, I know what he is going to beat Lance Miller in, but how is something which I did not know, and he started it. Every good speech has always a message and some humor in it. And Toastmaster Faraz did not make me unhappy, and he made me very happy today with a very humorous speech and with a beautiful message. Yes, I loved it, and I was looking forward to each step. Initially, the humor which he brought up in the first 2 minutes was very nice because it made me laugh, and as Toastmaster Hisham said, it was rib tickling. And it went in a very well-crafted way, his speech, the whole speech. If I go according to what Madam Swarna Kalyan just now said, these are the initial observations. Later, what I have seen is that his vocabulary was fantastic. His use of language was very apt, proper for the humor which was involved, and to keep us laughing, smiling all the way. So that's something made me very happy to hear his speech. The second thing was the vocal variety. The vocal variety was fantastic when he was telling us about the way he went to the Papa Camels, go-karting, BIC and all that. It was very funny, very happy. And then he wanted to say how cunning he was. He slowed down and then he paused. And he says, I was being cunning. That was done very nicely. And it was very appealing to me. The one thing which I would recommend is, but unfortunately in these virtual meetings, this is my personal opinion, I don't know about others, this doesn't give much scope for as much scope as we were on a stage. A speech like Faraz now, it would have flown if he was on a speech, because on a stage, because I know he will travel back and forth on the stage, and then he will be standing erect and going along with his speech. Now this time he had to hunch back to get into the camera, and sometimes it was distracting. Otherwise, a very beautiful speech and fantastic message. He gave a couple of messages, but if you come down to the nits and gritties of it, it all comes to the same thing. Life is not a race. Life is a journey. This is something which we forget about in our regular life. This is the most important message which I have taken. And all the improvement is for ourselves is, of course, there. Congratulations, Toastmaster Faraz. This is another great humorous speech of yours. Thank you, madam.
Thank you so much, DTM Ratinder. Now, maybe we can ask our president, Khalid, to give his feedback or his evaluation.
I was not really ready for an evaluation, especially after two seasoned evaluators. But all I can say is I like the visual of what DTM Farhaz has made, because been there, done that, the bridge, the Saudi bridge, the camel talk, that I really loved it. It's still there in my head. And of course, at the end of it was the use of the screen. What I liked also, the use of the screen. That's something wonderful in a virtual setup. So these are the things that I have in mind, but I honestly never prepared for an evaluation. You caught me by surprise, but these are the points that I have right now in mind.
Thank you so much. Okay, as this is what I had today to present to you all. So just to conclude on what I had to share with you all is that evaluation is something that we all learn on a gradual basis. We saw today two evaluators just pick up after listening, right? Just in 1-2 minutes, they just came up with their evaluation. It's just practice. And practice is where we can have when we come to meetings regularly. And so that's where actually we are learning. And I hope you enjoyed this session. And for me, as a conclusion, let me go back to my slide. I just want, as you all have given feedback to the speech, I want feedback too. So I have a, just give me a minute. This is me. I'm on various platforms. So if you do want to connect with me, please do connect. Okay. And this is a feedback. Can I request all of you to just take your phones, look at the QR code, give me a feedback on what I can improve to make this session from wherever it is to the next level. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and over to you, our MC DTM Ali Shabazz Ali.
Thank you very much. A round of applause to our first presenter, Savanna Kalyan. A seriously evaluate to motivate session. We seriously enjoyed. I took so much of notes while I was taking. You ended your presentation, so I was confused. Oh my God, I need to get back to track. So probably I'll evaluate Savanna later. Once more, a second round of applause. Before we go forward, let me introduce one of the dignitaries we have from District 80. I have been going to convention from past 6 years almost, made sure I don't miss anyone. And there is this gentleman I've been seeing sometimes. We had our own talks in the corridor while sipping coffee, sometimes debating about leadership, about the organization, and he makes sure he comes up with really logical debate. He's none other than one of the PQDs from the, I mean, there's just one PQD in District 80, one amazing personality, PQD old friend, Jackson. Jackson, would you want to share just one-liner with all of us? How do you feel coming
Yes,
to
just one line. I came here to support my member from District 80, Suwana. Pleasant surprise to see Ali here. I met Ali in Denver. He was RA then. He was my trainer in the mid-year training in Chennai last year. To all the esteemed gentlemen here, I'm so happy. To me, this is the power of the possibilities of connecting. All of you, they sound like us, they talk like us. We are united by this activity we do. I'm so glad to be here. So happy to see Ali is here as a TMD. Wow. At the end of the day, I have only one line to share. Evaluation is all about really encouraging one another, being truthful to yourself, being truthful to the speaker. With that, all the techniques will fall in place. Just enjoy being happy with each other and improving fellowship and goodwill all around. Thank you. Back to you, Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you. Thank you, PQD Jackson. Well, there was Michael Jackson, and we have only one Jackson in Toastmasters. So here we are going back to our program. CGD Khalid, are we missing any dignitaries? Any member of trios from any of the districts?
No, I just glanced at PQD Jackson so far. If there is anything else, what's up? Yeah.
Great. Thank you, CGD Khalid. And now going to our next speaker. Oh my God. She has been a powerhouse, full with electricity wherever she goes. She is a people's person, pulls so much of crowd with the amazing aura she has. She's a co-author in an international bestseller book, international speaker, coach, global visibility influencer. For nearly 40 years, she had 5 strong phobias, including public speaking and visibility. I exactly don't know what visibility she's talking about, but she's going to explain us all. But I too see dead people. Now, she has a global tribe of 30,000 followers in 140 plus countries. She believes your people are waiting for you. In fact, they are praying for you. The best way that you can connect with your people and engage with them is by using these 4 elements of world champion speech. She is none other than Cynthia Scott. Let's welcome her with a round of applause. Cynthia, the floor is yours.
Thank you, DT and Allah Shabazz Ali. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me. And thank you, Mohammed Vikarudian. Are you here? Because you are the one that connected me with Bahrain Advanced Toastmasters Club. Thank you, Mohammed. Awesome. So I brought with me Khadisha Curry, and she is going to be helping by monitoring the chat and posting some things for you, and then giving your answers in the chat. So Khadisha, can you post our workbook so everyone can see that in the chat? And then a little later on, she's going to post a sign-up sheet where you can sign up for a free workshop with me. Oh, there it goes. There's the workbook. And let me get it myself. Okay. Great. So does everybody have that? Okay. So the 4, let me just start with the 4 elements of a world champion's speech as I see it. There's the first one is inspiration. I actually call this the international/inspiring speech, mostly because my heart-centered entrepreneurs didn't know what an international speech, that sounds good. But when I said it was inspiring speech, they worked so hard to be a competitor. They worked to complete their levels so they could, their speeches in the CC manual back in the day. And then for the pathways, you would not imagine how quickly they worked to complete level 2. And so inspiring is really important. Number 2, vulnerability. We don't talk about this much in Toastmasters, but it's really talked about in the TED Talk by Brené Brown. It's so important. She talks about the power of vulnerability. And actually, I found that vulnerability underpins all 4 of these elements. The third one is humor. Humor. You have to have humor. You have to have humor in, of course, a world champion speech. You haven't seen any world champions win without humor. Humor is also a wonderful tool, especially if you're talking about something like, I call it basement talk, like difficult talk, things that people don't want to talk about, or maybe there's a taboo. It's a really sensitive subject. You have to have humor because it acts like the sugar in the teaspoon of sugar that helps the medicine go down. And the more bitter the medicine, the more sugar you need, which is humor. And finally, number 4, twist. A twist, an unexpected element that you need to have. Okay, so we're going to go through them one by one. And then we're going to have the demonstration speaker. And I believe that's going to be Farouk again, giving his lovely speech, maybe incorporating some of these things that I'm talking about, as well as he learned through Swarna's amazing art of the evaluation. And we're going to see how he's going to deepen it. I talk about speeches, especially to my entrepreneurial clients who are giving their signature speech to connect them with their clients. I talk about layering it and how it's wonderful at Toastmasters because you can layer it with vocal variety and body language and especially research. Oh, we got a different, we have a different demo speaker. Well, that'll be good. I was just hoping it would be Farouk again, because then we could see how he changed his speech and how layering it with inspiration, humor, vulnerability, and a twist could make it even better. But okay, I'm going with it. I'm a Toastmaster, so I always can take changes. Great. So, where was I? You get distracted with the comments in the chat. So I'm going to talk about what we're going to do, and then we're going to have the demonstration speech, and then we're going to see how he used the elements that we talked about to make his speech better, and how he could use it even more. So some people say the part that's the real learning is when we've seen the demonstration speech and then we learn how to apply it in that speech. So that, when you see something, you sort of learn it. When you hear something, you sort of learn it. But when you do something, when you experience it, that's when you really learn and really understand those principles. So let's go back to the worksheet. And here. So first, I'm going to talk about inspiration. And in inspiration, you'll see on the worksheet, there's a link to Simon Sinek's TED Talk Start with why. This is so important. And what we're going to do here is we're going to use it for your statements and declarations. And this comes from Simon Sinek's talk. I believe, I'm committed to, and what's important to me is. Okay, and so we're going to, Kadisha, have you posted the sign-up sheet yet? That will be really good to sign up for a workshop that I'll take you deeper into the 4 elements of a world championship speech. And then also for you in the audience, this is your chance to post. I believe, I'm committed to, what's important to me is very important to develop that in your speech. So go ahead, and as I'm talking, you can just type yours in, and then Kadisha will read them off in a few minutes. Great. So Simon Sinek talks about how important it is to start with your why you do what you do. And that's reminding me, I forgot to start with my why. So I'll share that now. As DTM Ali Shabiz Ali mentioned, I had 5 strong phobias. In fact, I was called Miss Wiggles in college, in my college speech class, because my lip quivered and my whole body shook. And I could barely get my words out of my throat, from my heart to my throat, out my mouth. I not only turned beet red, I turned purple. And one time I saw that black screen coming in, kind of like an old television. They used to say fade to black. It was a black circle that came in and got smaller, 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 and the whole screen turned black. I saw that coming and I was like, oh, breathe, Cynthia, breathe. I knew I was going to faint. I was terrified. I was also terrified of visibility. And I want to explain what that is. Being seen. I worked at the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco, and I was the VP of membership for Federal Reserve membership to get the employees to join our Toastmasters club. And the audiovisual person wanted me to put my picture up along with Toastmasters, saying the date and the time where we're meeting, the usual stuff. And it was going to be up on an e-board that was only internal to the Fed. And the Fed's very safe. You got man-trap doors that don't allow people to come in unless they're supposed to come in. And we even had a bomb dog to protect us against bombs. Perfectly safe, but not for me. No way. 5 times I argued with our audiovisual guy. No picture of me, no name of me anywhere. And I almost lost my good friend because she was on Facebook and she'd put her family photos and talk about her family. And I refused to be on Facebook for 5 years. 5 years, imagine. And I almost lost her as my friend. She was so frustrated with me. Now, I have 4,000 friends on Facebook. My face is plastered everywhere. And people feel like they know me. I even had a woman argue with me that she knew me in person, that she met me in person. She knew it. She ran through 5 of my friends. She finally got to one of my friends, and she lives in Tracy. And I said, oh, I know her, about 75 miles away from me. And she said, yeah, I went to her house for a party and I know I met you there. And I finally said, yes, I met you in person at Tracy's house. I've never been to Tracy's house. I never, ever went to her house, but I decided it was better not to argue with her. So going from being very shy and sheepish to being open and available and at a club that has 33 countries represented and 15 US states. I went from the invisible to the global visibility. Great. So, sorry, I always get distracted with the chat. I need to not get distracted with the chat. I believe so strongly that your people are waiting for you. And this is what I've found for myself, that when I make myself available, when I make myself visible, when I speak, my people were already waiting for me. In fact, they were praying for me. For someone, they didn't know that someone like me existed with my unique talents and my gifts. And even my wounds, the bad things that happened to me. Because do you know the reason why I was so afraid to have my picture shown at the Federal Reserve when we have a police force and bomb dogs and man-trap doors? It was because I was stalked. I was stalked multiple times, even on a bus. Wherever I went, I was always stalked by men that wanted to hurt me. And I was afraid to be seen. And when I started coming out onto Facebook, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm afraid that they're going to come and stalk me. If I say I'm at Golden Gate Park, they're going to come there. But I worked towards protecting myself. I kept things private, like my address and things like that. I didn't want somebody showing up at my door. But I found that as I'm more inside of myself, more strong spiritually, I'm a very spiritual person, I'm able to protect myself energetically. And I haven't been stalked since coming out so big on Facebook. I've been Zoom bombed, but I haven't been stalked. So telling your why you do what you do. I do this because I know your people are waiting for you, and I want you to connect with your people, because the more people that you connect with and change lives and raise your vibration and their vibration, then you are going to contribute to the vibration of the entire world. I believe that with all my heart. I also believe the world needs you. We need you. We need all of you to be inspiring, to be vulnerable, to be funny, and to surprise people with a twist. So what are your I believe statements and I know statements? I also want to say one thing. I noticed that after Simon Sinek gave his speech, that I believe statements popped up everywhere. Even the breakfast cereal, Cheerios, on the top of the label, it says, "We believe," because they know that that's important, that it's important to let people know what you believe and what you stand for. So, Kadisha, do we have any I believe and I'm committed to and what's important to me statements?
We don't, but we have a comment from Jackson, PQD Jackson Chow. He says, know that your people are waiting for you. Strong, powerful.
Great. I thought I saw a couple of I believe or I know. There weren't any?
I don't see any on my end.
Nobody's doing their homework. Okay, so be sure to post in there what you believe. I believe, I'm committed to. What's important to me is they are very, here we get one from Swarna. Can you read that one?
Yes, Swarna says, I believe that the world is my oyster. PD Jackson says, I am a following of being vulnerable. Vulnerability is profoundly misunderstood. Farhaz says, I believe in the importance of looking after each other. Oh, Breen, Jackson meant to say. Thank you. And Khalid says, I believe in enjoying the journey than the destination, especially this term as CGD, happy face. Sihan says, I believe nothing is impossible. Ali Shabazz says, I believe we create our own fears.
Mm.
God, it's Anetta Work says, I believe in purposefully engaging life without apology.
So key. Without apology means that you're standing in your power. You're not taking it back. You're just standing in it. This is what I believe. And because it's what you believe, you can't be wrong. It's your opinion. You can stand in it. If somebody believes something else, that's okay. You stand in what you believe.
Muhammad says, I believe work is worship.
Oh, that's so beautiful. That brings a depth of an element and a depth, like watching somebody being there is being a sacred witness. But if you bring that to your work, that work is worship. That's so awesome. Then that makes even cleaning the streets or sweeping the floors or being a banker a spiritual journey. And you are creating that element of worship into your work. Beautiful. Thank you, Mohammed. Do we get some more comments there?
We have a few comments here. Jackson adds, you have a caring, expressive face, Madame Stott. Anetta agrees with Mohammed's comment. Khalid adds on to work is worship, that it depends if you work to live or live to work. And Jackson further adds, the sanctity of work is beautiful. Swarna says, bringing spirituality to work. Great thought, Mohammed. And finally, Annette says, self-care is a revolutionary act.
Beautiful. Self-care is a revolutionary act. So add I believe onto that. I believe self-care is a revolutionary act. Awesome. 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 These are beautiful. And keep them coming. We may be able to circle back a little later. Okay. So next is vulnerability. And who was that mentioned that's something about vulnerability is really key and underrated. So if you look in the workbook, it shows you a link to Brene Brown's The Power of Vulnerability. If you have not watched this, you need to. You absolutely need to. I don't like to say those kinds of words, but it's absolutely true. And she has talked to Navy SEALs and special forces, and she has challenged them to say, if any act of courage requires vulnerability, and they have not been able to show where it didn't require vulnerability. If you know what's going to happen, it's not a very brave act. And you're vulnerable in the unknowing, uncertainty. That's vulnerable in itself. And when you self-disclose, when you give information about yourself, that connects you so deeply to others, even if they didn't have the same experience. Like when I shared the reason why I was so terrified of having my picture shown at the Federal Reserve. Maybe you haven't been stalked. Maybe you're a man, you haven't been stalked, you don't have that experience, but you could understand where I was coming from because I shared so deeply and so vulnerably. And maybe you're a woman and you have been stalked or you're afraid of being stalked. And that has prevented you from bringing yourself out in the forefront. That has prevented you from going on social media and showing your face and speaking. And maybe you can understand that I face those same fears. And I overcame them. And I didn't let them win. See, it wasn't my stalkers that were gaining something by me not being visible. It was me losing something. And the world losing something. If I stayed small, didn't go on Facebook, only didn't go to a Toastmasters meeting, the world would lose what I have to offer. And I don't want the world to lose what you have to offer. Because somebody else may be able to tell them what you need to say. Maybe somebody else has your same message, but only you have your message for your people that can hear it in the way that you can deliver it. Beautiful. Then we have humor. You got to have that spoonful of sugar to make the medicine go down. You have to share with them the humor. And humor doesn't have to be a stand-up comedian telling jokes. In fact, I don't know how to tell jokes. I have a few, but I'm just not a joke kind of person. I look at it more as engaging with humor with the audience, being playful, using some facial expressions like Lucille Ball. You know, Lucille Ball could read the menu and make you laugh. So it's not necessarily what you say, but how you say it. Oh, somebody's unmuted here. There's a noise in the background. Thank you. So engaging with the humor doesn't mean that you have to learn how to tell jokes. It means that you can use humor how you use humor. I use it by being playful. I also use it by using my laugh. I have a very unique, engaging laugh. I have the ability to make 80 yoga instructors in the training while they're in a very quiet yoga session to laugh because of my laugh. It's engaging, it's infectious, and you can use that also. Can someone mute her, please? Thank you. Awesome. And there's humor when something comes in play, you know? You never know what's going to happen. Someone's going to unmute their mic, or you're going to have a Zoom bomber, whatever happens. You got to go with it. We had 18 Zoom bombers come in, and I had to talk and over them so that people wouldn't hear their swearing. And then our beautiful Zoom host, Linda Patton, she was a major in the U.S. Army, and she went into combat zone and she got rid of him in 3 minutes flat. Loved it. So humor, you got to engage them with humor, and those 3 things play into each other, and they also feed into your twist. What is a twist? It's something unique, something different. I can't remember his name. He was from Singapore, the representative from Singapore that won. I bet Swarna, you remember his name, the world champion of public speaking. Yeah, can you unmute your mic and tell us his name again? Tay, I think his last name was?
Darren Tay.
It was Darren Tay. I thought that I was thinking I might have confused it with Darren LaCoy. Yeah, Darren Tay, 27-year-old lawyer from Singapore. And he comes out in his very formal attire, navy blue suit, button-down shirt. and a very deadpan face. And he comes out, he pauses. What does he pull out of his pocket? Do you remember? He pulls out a pair of men's brief underwear. Oh, that's surprising. That's shocking in and of itself. Then he puts them on over his pants. And he proceeds to wear them on the outside of his pants for the rest of his speech. That's a twist. But he tied it into, you want to always tie your twist into your speech. There has to be a reason why you're doing that. Otherwise, you just look crazy. He was talking about being bullied when he was in high school. And he said that the bully made him wear underwear on the outside of his pants to humiliate him. And he said, are you wondering if the underwear are clean? So was I. That's how he felt when he was being bullied. He was really wondering if they're clean. So that twist was really exaggerated by his wearing of the formal outfit. If he had come out in jeans and a t-shirt and then wore them, it wouldn't be as a big of an impact for you. There wouldn't be as big of a twist. So it's a gap between where the thing is and where you end up that makes it more humorous. So it's more humorous in a formal suit than in a t-shirt and jeans. So another Darren, Darren LaCroix, was the world champion, and he gave his speech. Ouch. And what did he do? He fell flat on his face in the first few seconds. And he even addressed the Toastmasters. The Toastmasters and the audience and the judges and the Toastmaster of the day from the floor. That was the first time anyone had ever done that. And he had found out something during his practice. He had spoken in front of hundreds of Toastmasters and given this speech. And the thing they always said was, you stay down too long. You stay down too long. It just made me uncomfortable. You stayed down too long. You should get up. 90% of the Toastmasters gave him that feedback. And if he had taken their advice, he would have lost if he took 90% of the Toastmasters' feedback. Instead, he took that information and said, I'm making them uncomfortable. That's an opportunity for humor. That's an opportunity for impact. I'm going to take that knife, stick it in, and twist it. And I'm going to stay down even longer and make them more uncomfortable. So when he stood up, he said, because he knew what they were thinking, did I stay down too long? And they roared with laughter, 2,000 people roaring with laughter because their tension was released, because they were all uncomfortable. And then he used it for impact. He said, have you ever stayed down too long? Powerful, powerful. And I like to say that laughter and that joy opens your heart, and then the impact can go directly in. So one super tip is use humor to open their heart, and then make your inspiring, impactful message go in even further. It's a 1-2 step. Great. So that twist, both of those twists, falling on the floor, wearing the underwear on the outside, they related to their speech. They related to the inspiration. They related to vulnerability, because both of them were being very vulnerable by doing that. Can you imagine how hard it is as Darren LaCroix to be able to stay down too long when you know 90% of the Toastmasters out there are really uncomfortable and are not liking you in this moment? You have to stay down. So you have to be vulnerable. And Darren Tay standing there for his entire speech in underwear on the outside of his pants. You have to be invulnerable. From vulnerability comes strength. And then humor. Both of those twists were really funny and made the humor come to life and come to heart to really impact them. Inspiration, vulnerability, humor, and a twist. And now we're going to hear from our demo speaker. Back to you, Toastmaster.
Thank you, Toastmaster Cynthia. VP Education, are we going back to Toastmaster Cynthia after the demo speaker? I believe we are going to do that, right? Okay.
Yes, yes,
Sounds
please.
good. Sounds good.
Thank you.
Great. Once our demo speaker is ready, Toastmaster Pritambaran, could you just give me a thumbs up? I see your camera going on and off. Mr. VP Education, could you just check my message, please, on the title? We are waiting for you, our speaker, Pitambaran. Just give me a thumbs up once you're ready. It seems his screen is frozen.
Uh-oh.
It seems like he's
No, I'm sorry. That's not going to work. So I hope I didn't create this, but it looks like we're going to have to please mute your mic. We're going to have to go back to the demo speech again by Faraz Farouk. Can we do that? Because the second demo speaker is not ready. We can't have that kind of distortion.
sure. I mean, I can repeat the speech and then perhaps I bring in the four elements as best as I can.
Yeah. On the fly, you're a Toastmaster.
I didn't know I was okay. Vulnerability. Let me see.
You want to have the vulnerability with the cockroach speech?
I don't think the cockroach speech will work in this setting because we're talking of inspiration.
No, please skip your same speech. Just try to incorporate. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show how you can incorporate the form elements. So you do your best, but then I'll show you how. Okay?
And is it okay if I also take one or two of the feedback that the previous evaluators gave?
Whatever you want to put in it.
Incorporate this as well. All right.
Yeah. And especially the title. I really like I beat the world champion of public speaking. Or I beat the world champion would be really good.
Okay.
That's DTM Farhas, please could you remove your virtual background?
Yeah, I will. I just saw that. I can see the PB, you're saying hello. Is there anything I can do to help you?
Again, his screen is frozen, so let's go ahead with the plan which we just made. DTM Farhas, we'll go ahead with your speech.
Yeah, I guess I'll just go ahead and then we'll make the most of this.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. I
can't hear you.
So I don't know the change.
I can't hear you.
Okay.
Whoever that was, we can't hear you. Can you put it in the chat?
Right.
Okay. Maybe we'll just repeat my speech, I guess.
We'll go ahead with
okay, sorry for the last minute change.
That's fine. That's okay.
That's fine. Toastmaster Pritambaran, we apologize, but since your screen, your internet connection looks bad, we'll have to go ahead with the backup speaker, so apologies.
No issues, DTM. My pleasure. It's my pleasure. No issues.
Okay, great. Your voice is breaking, so we can't hear you. Maybe you could put in the chat, but I believe you're
Yeah.
okay with us going ahead. Our next speaker is actually our same speaker. Farhas Farouk, I beat Lance Miller. I beat Lance Miller, Farhas Farouk.
Don't we all dream of winning? And if this opportunity to win comes against a world champion, all the better. Madam Presenter, dear Toastmasters and guests, I was thrilled when I heard the world champion of public speaking, Lance Miller, was visiting Bahrain as part of the district contest. I was looking forward to meeting him, I was looking forward to greeting him, and I was looking forward to beating him in something, anything. But there were a few problems. As a former world champion of public speaking, he was no longer eligible to participate in the international speech contest. I was participating in the humorous speech contest, and Lance Miller did not qualify from our district. And I just couldn't beat him up outside the hotel, because if I did, I would have just got into trouble with the law. When all opportunities of beating Lance Miller seem to vanish like a mirage, my savior came in the form of a phone call from the then PQD of our district, DTM Mohammed Salim. Brother, can you please take some of our guests on a tour of Bahrain? I said, yes, of course, brother. I have some free time. Why not? Who are these guests? First Vice President Richard Peck, Cheryl Roche, and champion Lance Miller. Lance Miller? The Lance Miller, the world champion of public speaking? Of course I will. Opportunity was knocking at my door, and I was definitely not going to let it go. I picked up my guests from the hotel and I took them around and showed them the sights and sounds of Bahrain. I showed a bridge connecting Bahrain to Saudi Arabia. Then I took them to the camel farm where Papa camels and Mama camels were sitting under the hot Middle Eastern sun, teaching their baby camels camel things. Then I slowly drove around to the Formula One racetrack. When I was there, a great idea struck me. Probably this was the chance I had to beat Lance Miller. So I sheepishly suggested to them, shall we go for a race on the go-karting track? And not surprisingly, they said yes. They fell right into my trap. I was finally getting an opportunity to beat the world champion at something, at anything. Fully kitted up, we watched the safety instructions and we got into our cars. Like an angel, I just sent my guests, please you go ahead, I'll follow you. And I can still hear them say, oh, what a nice man Faraz is. He is being good, gracious, and generous to his guests. I was anything but good, gracious, or generous. I was just being cunning. Only if they went before me would I be able to monitor the times on the big screen next to the pavilion. As the race progressed, one thing was certain. This race was just between me and Lance Miller. There was no one else in the competition. With every lap, I saw Lance Miller was gaining speed. I said, come on, Lance, give this to me. You're already world champion. I need to beat you in something. He gained a few milliseconds. I gained a few milliseconds. He gains a few more milliseconds. I gained a few more milliseconds. He gained a lot of milliseconds, and this was the final lap. I had to do it. It was now or never. I told myself, listen, Faraz, this is it. This is your chance. Give it your all. You can finally beat the world champion. And that's exactly what I did. I held the steering wheel firmly, stepped on the gas, and tore down the track as if there was no tomorrow. At the end, I got the best time in the race and I had won. I finally beat a world champion in something, in anything. There we stood on the winner's podium, and I was looking at the big screen proudly with my name at the first place, Faraz Farouk, second place, Lance Miller, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, a whole bunch of other losers. I was savoring this moment of glory. When the adrenaline and the euphoria died down, we got into the car and we were headed back home. but I really had to rub it in to the world champion. So I looked at him and said, "Hey, Lance, I beat you." And do you know what Lance said? "Were we racing?" Were we racing? A simple question of just 3 words was all it took for Lance Miller to catch me and toss me out of my world of illusion and bring me back to reality. Here I was, all pumped up and competitive, and my competitor, the world champion, didn't even know I was competing with him. How many of us are in such delusionary races where our so-called competitors do not even know they are part of the race? And these competitors could be from all walks of life. These could be family and friends, colleagues and companions. The races could be personal, professional, physiological, or psychological. Ladies and gentlemen, life is not a race, it's a journey. Here I was, waiting to beat someone who was a world champion at something because I wanted a glory bigger than his. But that person did not even know they were part of such a race with me. Ladies and gentlemen, life is not a race, it's a journey. I'm getting a bit mixed up, but that's okay. The journey. How many of us are in such delusion? Sorry about that. I'm just trying to improvise as we go along, but I know I shouldn't apologize. Anyway, we'll eventually get to the line of thought. I'm trying to also improvise. Okay. Friends, it's quite easy for me to have said I beat Lance Miller. That was my dream. I just wanted to beat a world champion in something and anything. And I had got an opportunity and I thought I beat him. But he didn't even know. Friends, that may be easy, but what's more difficult? It's much more difficult for me to say I beat myself. They say the biggest competitor each of us has is the person we meet on the screen, on the mirror every single day. Next time you see this person, look that person in the eyes and tell them, just like how I told Lance Miller, "Hey, I beat you yesterday, I will beat you today, and I will beat you tomorrow." Madam Presenter.
Great. Great. And I love how you were raw and real and you forgot your thought in the moment. Beautiful. And that's an opportunity for vulnerability to incorporate it into your speech. In fact, many times I will say, I'm just going to pause for a minute because I'm tapping into something different. Because what I believe, when you forget your thought, there's several things. There's 3 things that can be going on. 1, you forgot your thought, or like me, there was a distraction with chat or something else happened. But anyway, you can pause just in a moment and say, "Hey, I got distracted by chat." let me tap in. Sometimes it's because there's a deeper thought. And I think that this is usually the case. There's a deeper thought that's coming to you that wants to come through, but your monkey mind has to get out of the way. It's like we're blocking all our thoughts, our inspiration that's coming from us. So pausing. And one thing that you can do, because you might be getting anxious or fearful as you're forgetting your speech on stage and in front of YouTube, is to wiggle your toes. Wiggle your toes. My friend was in a study and she was put in a CT scan, a medical device, to look at her brain waves. They measured her brain waves. Then they showed her a fearful picture. And her brain waves changed. Her chemistry in her brain was changed. And then she wiggled her toes and it was changed back again, and maybe even better by wiggling her toes. So bring your mind down to your feet and focus on your feet. Don't look at your feet, but bring your mind, let it slide down to your feet. Breathe and wiggle your toes. And that will help you to ground and focus. And maybe you'll remember what you were going to say, or maybe you'll hear what that inspiration that came to you is saying you should speak. The third way is, I believe, because your people are waiting for you, that someone in the audience needs to hear something different from you in that moment. So if you can focus in on your audience, that you look in the screen to see your audience, not scanning your face to the many people. You want to keep your focus on the camera. And you want to say, Swarna Kalyan, what does she need to hear from me? In your mind, you're thinking this as you're wiggling your toes and you're breathing and you're pausing. Or maybe you don't know who she is. So you say, the woman with the white shirt, what does she need to hear from me? And maybe even put your hand on your heart to help you focus. So you could say, I need a minute. I've lost my train of thought. And I'm going to wait until I be inspired for my next words. I'm just going to tap in for a minute and breathe and relax. And maybe you can do the same. And then that inspiring thought from Swarna, what Swarna needs from you today, might come to you. Or it might be you're looking at Swarna, but it's coming from Farouz. It's coming from someone else, but you're tapping in. And then I'll say, I wasn't going to share this today, but for some reason, I need to share it. Maybe it's because someone needs to hear it. And then I'll go ahead and share. And sometimes it's strange. It's weird. It's not something that I wanted to share even. I thought I was going to share. I wasn't going to share about my stalkers with you today. But I felt led to share it. And it's actually the first time I've shared it publicly. And many times after my speech where I've shared something that was different, that was not scripted, I'll have 5 people come up to me and say, I needed to hear that. I needed to hear that. You spoke that for me. And that's a way that you can tap into your audience more deeply than if you didn't forget your words. Sometimes the greatest gift for a speaker is to forget their words. Okay, I'm going to do a time check. So how much longer do I have to share and give some reflection from Faraz?
We are a bit over time, but that's okay. Everybody seems to be enjoying it, so nobody's complaining.
Oh, okay. I'll be
Not
quick.
worry.
Like 2 minutes.
Yeah, please take your time. Take your time. It's fine. I mean, the way I judge is if people are still listening, that means they want more. So don't worry about it.
Well, inspiration. You definitely had inspiration. And you had vulnerability, and a possibility for more vulnerability is, instead of immediately going from what you did with Lance Miller to maybe you're doing that, maybe you've done that, first reflect on yourself. Lance wasn't competing with me, and I was competing with him. How am I doing that in my life? Am I doing that with my wife, with my children, with my coworker? Life is a journey, not a destination. And then maybe share a story about how you have done that in your life with a coworker or your wife or your children or your brother. Be vulnerable with that. And they your audience will tap into that. And how you can bring them in even more is asking them a question. Have you ever done that? Have you ever competed with someone that they didn't even know you were competing? And you can also bring them in when you tell your story. You can say something like, if you were sitting in my passenger seat in the car, next to me in the passenger seat in my car, you would have heard me say this. You would have seen me say that. If you were in the doctor's office with me, you would have heard the doctor say such and such and such and such. Bring them in by saying, if you were, or imagine you were sitting next to me. Imagine you were walking with me down the street. And it doesn't have to be long. It just a sentence or two will bring them into your story. Because having them into your story will help them to drive it deeper to them. Let's see, let me tap in here. Again, I'm losing my thought, and there wasn't even a chat going on. Vulnerability is absolutely the most important part of your speech, especially for a winning speech, but any speech. JFK said the only reason to speak is to change the world. And I believe every time you speak, and even if it's just to one person, you have an opportunity to change the world. Maybe not the world, or at least your world. And when you change your world, you will change the world. And your twist, Faraz, I believe is in your title. You say how I beat the world champion. Then they're thinking the whole time, how is he going to beat the world champion? And you're talking about Lance Miller, make sure to say that he's the world champion of public speaking and maybe the year that he was the champion, so that people that don't know. And your story becomes the whole twist. You have it from the beginning to the end, and it ties to your message. You didn't beat him. You weren't in a race. You weren't in a competition. And that's the real message. Life is a journey, not the destination. And you're not in competition with anyone but yourself. Thank you so much, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Cynthia Stott. You took us for a ride. And now, if you all agree, we feel so different, so charged up. Let's give Cynthia a round of applause. I mean, there were times when I got emotional, I got happy, there was a twist, there was some pauses, and our speaker with her facial expressions, my God, she did it all wonderful. So if Mr. President, should we go to the next segment, or do you have anything to share?
Yeah, I think we can move on. There's this light little thing that our Vice President of Public Relations wants to share, but we'll share it toward the end. Go ahead.
Okay. Sounds good. And now we go to the third and the last segment of the day. And for some reason, people enjoy this so much. Before I dive deep into this segment, which is question and answers, I would suggest our people in the audience, we know you're waiting for us, for our speakers to answer your questions. I just told something from the Champions book, One Leaf, your people are waiting for you. So that's like very important statement for the day. Please send in your questions to me so we can discuss your questions, your thoughts with our speakers. I'm going to go in no random fashion. I have a few questions from my side till we get some from the audience. I was thinking when we talk about evaluation and we going virtual during the pandemic has made it so possible to go around the world, evaluate, speak, share your ideas, share your thoughts with people. So the question is something like this. Was there a situation when we were evaluating, and for some reason, our evaluation or the style we evaluated was kind of different to that club culture, or maybe a speaker from that club? Did you experience anything like that, Swarna Kalyan? Would you like to share with us?
Thank you. A very interesting question. In July 2020, I chanced upon meeting Cynthia, and I attended her speechcraft. And that's how we met. And when I joined her club, Leaders Worldwide, I got an exposure to speeches that were very American. Okay. So people were talking about baseball, which is total alien to us in this part of the world. Okay. And we had people talking about coach culture, about schools, and it was very different. And when I was evaluating those speeches, I struggled with something, and that was to understand the relevance of the content. Okay, so the cultural difference comes when we evaluate, because I was concentrating on, I can concentrate on the delivery, I can concentrate on the language, I can also concentrate on what I see. But when what I feel was something that I was struggling with, because I do not connect with that topic. That topic is alien to me. And so how do I connect with that? So that is something that I learned, was that when we do speeches, we address, at least before COVID or before the virtual world, we were very happy doing what was there, that is there in our culture, whichever culture it could be. We are addressing that. So when you speak about something like camels, for example, I can't even imagine going to a camel farm, right? So if someone spoke about camel farm and what they do there, it is something alien to me. Yes, I see humor there, but for me to visualize something that I have not seen is something that was different. So there is definitely a cultural difference in how we deliver the speech. And incidentally, in that evaluation that I did, later on, the evaluator told me that how come you never addressed on the content of his speech? You were only talking about the delivery. You were only talking about how he looked and the visual, the presentation, body language, what was missing. Why didn't you say how you felt about it? What was your takeaway? And that's when I realized that cross-cultural communication or cultural differences come when we hear or evaluate speeches. So definitely it is there. But it has helped us because of this, right? We should challenge ourselves to listen to different styles or different speeches. Now we are on a world where we can just zoom into any part of the world at any time of the world. So let us take this opportunity to listen to different speakers and see, oh, it's like reading a book, right? You pick up a book, and if it is new, then you read it again, you understand. So similarly, even our speeches are like that. I hope I addressed your question.
Oh, yeah, Swarna, that was a good tip from your side. Sometimes we do hear, I had this experience. Somebody approached me and said, DTM Ali, I don't want people to hear my speech when I win at the club level and then at the area, because someone will take my ideas and make a speech out of it. And I tell these kind of people, like, the ocean is so big, so don't worry about it. But this is happening quite often because of virtual contests. Anybody from any part of the world joins division contests, area contests. And such speeches are very vulnerable, open, exposed. And such champions are so worried about copyright issues. Cynthia, what would you like to tell these champions?
Your people are waiting for you. No one can deliver your message or your speech in the way you can deliver it. Maybe they'll say some similar words. They should be careful that they don't steal all your exact words. But no one is the same as you. You are like your thumbprint. You have skin, you have lines. Everyone has a thumbprint, but no thumbprint is the same. And that's true for your message. So your people are waiting for you. And I would like to also add about making cultural differences. Well, it's not even just cultural differences because everybody's different. Some people in America have no idea how baseball is played. I've never been to a football game live. Never. And when I'm talking about football, I'm talking about American football. Never. And I'm an American. So you just have to make whatever you're talking about, it's important that you have a detailed talking about what you're talking about, because you have to, the interest comes from the details and the specificity. But then you just have to explain what it is so that everybody's on the same playing field. Now, when the camel farm was mentioned, I actually saw a farm, like a petting zoo kind of farm with a little fence and camels behind it. I don't know if that's what he had, but that's what was in my mind. And I've actually rode a camel when I was a child. Here at our Africa USA, I was able to ride a camel. So I've seen the camels up close and personal. But if you just give them some information, they can come in and be a part of it. So maybe you could say, if you were standing by the fence with me, looking into the camel farm, you would have seen mamas and papas teaching their camels camel things, so you can make it specific to them. So you are so unique. You are so unique. No thumbprint is the same for 7 billion people on the planet. And how many people have ever lived? No one has had your fingerprint.
Wow. Ooh. Thanks, Cynthia. There was 3 keywords here: awesome, better, challenge, which Savarna was talking about. What's the thin line between better and challenge? With Pathways score sheet, evaluation sheet, which we have, sometimes people feel hard when to mark 5, when to mark a 6, when to mark a 7. Now, me being a university professor, checking so many theses, I can make that difference at times. But sometimes I see people arguing over 1 or 2 marks. So what's that thin line you want people to know between better, becoming better, and challenging yourself? Savarna, please. You are muted. Yeah.
When I say better and when I say challenge is because where we are looking at project objectives, right? Let us see how we work with normal speeches. We have a project objective. And so when we look at the project objective and say, you did X, Y, Z, okay? You can do another set, okay? Maybe A, B, C. Then I'm actually keeping the project objective in mind, and I'm telling you that based on this structure, I want you to do this better. You get what I'm trying to say? Yeah, because the project objective is in mind. Now, if I want to challenge you to do something else, is just not in that project, but any other speech that you may have. It could be just like how we had our friend do her speech today. There was no project objective here, but we gave him suggestions. We said, oh, maybe, you can do these things. We had our evaluators who said, your topic itself maybe can be changed. right? I want you to challenge to so that you can address that gap, small gap that is there. So there's no project objective that I'm following, but I'm challenging you to make it universal. So anybody, like for example, just now Cynthia said, when you talk about camels, why don't you give us that relation there? You know, oh, you haven't seen camels, but they were teaching their children, right? So we are able to identify ourselves there. So that is the challenge. So instead of assuming that the audience knows what you're talking, when we go into the next level and say, I'm putting myself in the position of the audience and assuming that they don't know, what should I say? So that is the challenge that comes.
Great. Thanks, Warner. Wonderful. So we are getting some great tips from our speakers and it's getting all heated up. The next question is, okay, we'll take this from PQD Jackson since he's raising his hand. PQD Jackson.
My question, thank you for allowing me to interject. My question is really directed to both Swana. Actually, as a trainer, I'm not familiar with you, and also with Madam Snot, and also to you, Ali. This comment may not be well understood. We have this understandably obsession with being world champions, past world champions. Katani, my friend, not because he's world champion, because I connect with him. My view is this: while we're trying to improve ourselves, and the benchmark perhaps is that championship, the champion. But in your opinion, do we really use those techniques and stage presence in real life? So I think the balance is somewhere. While we know that as in Olympics, we do it for the sake of competing to bring out the best in us. But in real life, I think all leadership and communications exist to relate with each other well, so that we are happier as a world, being able to understand and support each other in fellowship. What is your comment on this, especially when you talk about vulnerability? Because vulnerability looks like weakness sometimes. So your views, please, the three of you, one gentleman and two ladies. Thank you.
Thank you, PQD Jackson. This is a question from PQD Jackson, which you all heard. I will also add a second thing because it's something similar. How can we stay vulnerable and still be impactful? It is something, this is from our CGD and that's from our PQD. Both are on the same lines. So since I'm a moderator, I would be the last one to comment. Which one from the speaker wants to take this? Cynthia, Savarna, anyone?
Swarna, would you like to go or do you want me to go first?
Cynthia, please go ahead. You go ahead, Cynthia.
My favorite topic, vulnerability. At least these days, since I've been teaching this class, it's been amazing. So one was that we don't use these things in ordinary life. Was that what was he talking about? And then also, how do we make an impact while being vulnerable? So I personally, I talk inspiration whenever I talk to anyone. When I'm on a phone call with a potential client, or talking with my clients, or talking with someone that I met on Clubhouse, I really take to heart JFK's words. The only reason to speak is to change the world. And I take it as my world, and then possibly the world. Trying to maintain with vulnerability, how do we maintain ourselves and how do we make an impact? And if you are bawling, if you're crying really terribly, then maybe you can't so much, but maybe you can. I watched the 2010 World Champion of Public Speaking, and he was I can't remember, I'm bad with names, but he was a district attorney, a lawyer for the government in Houston, Texas, and he was a Black man. And he made us laugh and he made us cry. And in fact, he cried himself. He cried large crocodile tears. He was talking about a very sad event in his life. And they were honest tears. They were authentic tears. And I could see his tears running down his face from 20 rows back. That's how much he was crying. And I noticed that the man sitting in the row in front of me was about a 75-year-old white man. He took off his glasses. He took out his handkerchief and he mopped his face. I knew he was really crying. He was so impacted. So that speaker not only impacted the audience, and if it's an audience of one, he leveled the playing field so that in that moment, a Black man in his 40s that was a district attorney in Houston touched the heart and the tears of a 75-year-old white man. This is how we change the world. This is how we change our world, and I believe the world.
Wonderful. Thank you, Cynthia. I think you quite answered it. Savarna, do you want to put some nail in the coffin?
I want to bring cultural differences here. Okay, I come from Asia, and I think I'm sure even in Bahrain, this could be to some extent correct, is that showing vulnerability is not appreciated. I don't know if Jackson will agree to this, because
I totally disagree. I totally disagree. But for the dogs, yes, but you're right. You're right. Mainstream really see that as weakness. You're right. But I think they're wrong.
Mainstream is that
Vision.
when you show we are supposed to be weak, it doesn't look as the same speech. I can tell you, Cynthia, if it was done in Asia, it wouldn't have been taken the same spirit. The spirit would be very different from the audience that is there in the US. So Western ways of being open, being willing to make mistakes and pick up and move on, that to some extent is missing in our, I mean, in a way, we are very constrained in our own culture that we are shy to show that part of us. But I'm seeing that today I was at a contest, and I'm seeing that younger generation are able to do that better than how I would do. I looked at some speeches today and I was like, oh my God, I would never do a speech like that. But then the younger generation is able to do that. So I guess there is change that is happening. And definitely when you display your vulnerability, you are able to connect with people, because all of us at some point, we do have our vulnerability, but we are not able to bring it out. And so when someone does say something like that, and you're thinking, yes, of course, even I feel the same. And that is the point, as Cynthia pointed out, is that you use that point to make the impact, and the impact comes out very well. So that is something that it can be done, but it is a challenge sometimes for us. I feel for me, culturally, I find sometimes it is a challenge.
Great. Wow, some good insights from both our speakers. I can only share on the request of our PQD that if I go back 17 years in Toastmasters, there was a time when I used to attend the district council meeting. So I won't talk about speech championship, but in leadership, I was a very different person back then, and 17 years passed as of today. When I used to sit in the district council, I used to debate and argue, where is the budget for the clubs? Where is the budget for the areas? And I used to never stop. And that time, back in 2004, 2005, the district director used to explain to me, Ali, we have a fixed budget for everything. We cannot spend dollars on clubs or whatever you think we can. Today, when I have crossed that journey, I do understand what that time the district director used to tell us. So when I became the district director in 2016, Somebody at the back seat was arguing just like the way I used to. It didn't make me angry. All I did is during the break, told that person, come to the dais, sit on my seat. I opened the budget file and I told him, do you want to fly back to your home? Because it was $200 for flight ticket. He said, yes. I told him, you told us in the council to cancel flying tickets budget and give that budget to the clubs. You being a president, how will you fly back if I cancel this right now? So sometimes we have to go down to a different level or go up to understand what people are thinking at times. This is in leadership. I can talk on that part. I'm sure with our PQD smiling, it seems he got some answers what he was looking for. I think people are really enjoying, but in the interest of time, a few more questions. I can see a few coming in. PQD, Jackson, you want to say something? Somebody wanted to say something? Okay. Sometimes people say that I'm very good in my delivery. I have no problem. But the problem is, where do I get this inspiration from? You know, I don't know what to speak about. And when they go for mentoring, they actually ask their mentors, give me a topic to talk about. So what should we do with such seekers or champions, Cynthia?
I'm laughing so hard because when I'm talking to my clients, just talking, immediately after they share a story with me, which they usually do, just a natural conversation, I say, you know what I'm going to say? And they laugh and they say, another speech. I find speeches in everything. Everything. Whenever something unusual happened, or a disappointment, or any story can become a world champion level. It's how you deliver it and what you say and how poignantly you say it. There are speeches everywhere. So start thinking, I'm a Toastmaster. I live my life. I have to think, what's a speech going to come from this? If you take a trip, if you take a drive, whatever you do, it can become a speech as long as there's a lesson in there. And believe me, lessons are everywhere.
Wow. That's a great tip, Cynthia. Thanks a lot. Wonderful. Once I had a visit to a corporate club, and there was one new member in the corporate club who actually came and told me during the break, my speaker today is my CEO. And how can I give points for improvement to my CEO? I really don't want to get fired. Savarna, have you experienced something like this or tips for corporate evaluations?
Oh, this is an interesting, yes, corporate clubs are a totally different ballgame. I recently charted two corporate clubs, and I totally agree what you're saying. It is difficult. But what happens is that sometimes it is our own fear that the CEO is going to fire us, right? Why do we think that evaluation is something negative? That is the problem, because we think by giving our evaluation, it is a negative thing for the speaker. It is not. It is something that he can build on. So it's basically our uh, skill comes in. How do we do that speech? It is not about telling that you were not a good speaker. It's about saying that you are a good speaker. From being good, how do you become a great speaker? So how you word your speech is where your skill comes. And basically, one is the mindset that as an evaluator, I'm finding fault. That is not right. Evaluator does not find fault. Evaluator is someone who's helping us to motivate, to be a facilitator and go back as a counselor. So these are important. We have to tell ourselves as evaluators that this is our goal. We are not going to be finding fault with people. And so when we change our mindset, our evaluation also changes.
Wow. That's a great tip for corporate evaluations from Savarna. My last question would be, in the interest of time, the last question to Savarna, and then we go to the last question for Cynthia. If there is one thing, Toastmaster Savarna, you would want to change in the evaluation contest ballot, what would it be? So if there is one thing you can change in the evaluation contest ballot, what would it be?
Okay, if you look at the ballot, I think it's there in my workbook also. I have actually included that in my workbook at the end. We look at analysis, we look at techniques, we look at recommendation, and we look at summary. Okay, so what I feel is that although we have these things now, maybe we need to look at and see how can we do these things on a virtual platform. Because now on a virtual platform, when I'm looking at how much of body language can I see, okay, or how do I mark as an evaluator, how do I give them marks for eye contact? Because by tendency, we are humans, we want to see people, and we think like, now I'm looking at my screen, but I'm not looking at the camera. So it's two different things. So how do we give that? That should be somewhere on the technical aspects, maybe on seeing that being human from virtual to physical, how can that transition be? So maybe that has to be, when they're talking about techniques, maybe that is something that we have to look at. But if you look at the whole process itself, I think it covers very much on how a good evaluation should be. How we analyze. We saw that today in both the evaluations, the way they analyzed how the speech was done. And then they spoke on the techniques that the person used. Like they said, oh, Faraz, you did this and you did that. So the techniques were spoken about. And then also there were recommendations, right from how the title should be to how you can pause and where can you do this. Or maybe you had too many content, maybe reduce the takeaways, just have one takeaway. So these are recommendations, and a beautiful summary was there. So therefore, the arts is definitely a good way to evaluate. It's just that how can we take it a little bit more for a virtual evaluation? How can we look at it and see how do we do this for a virtual evaluation? Can we use technical aspects in that? Is something that we can think of. Over to you.
Thank you, Savarna. And here we go for the last question to Cynthia. In the interest of time, we can't take more questions, and I seriously apologize for that. I was sitting in the second row once in the World Convention watching the championship, and there was one famous speech which many would remember who go to convention very often. The speech title was, "I fell in love with a prostitute." And I'm sure even people who watched that year, I think DTM Farhas, do you remember that speech? That was a very, very impactful speech. It kept the audience, it made us so emotional. But that speaker didn't make it. Though everybody in the room became emotional. We are talking about 2,500 plus people in the full house. All our hearts went off. The speaker didn't make it. I don't remember he made it in the first or the second round, as first or the second position also. That day I concluded something, Cynthia. Because there was no humor, the speaker didn't make it. I don't know. But do you still think humor is a very important part, even though that speech made us uncomfortable? There was a twist, there was inspiration. Just because humor was missing, it wasn't a complete speech. Your comments, please.
In a word, yes. Did you see my face when you announced the title of the speech? I
yes.
was laughing. I was laughing. I just because it's such a twist. It's such a twist. And so when you have that twist, when you have that, it's edgy, it's different, you definitely have an opportunity for humor. And probably if it didn't have any humor, that's probably the main reason they didn't win or place. Because you have to have those four elements, at least as I see them. It has to be humorous. However, I will say that it's shocking, the title, it's shocking, it's controversial, and it will make some people very uncomfortable. And so they wouldn't vote for it just for that. For example, and I'm going out a limb here, last year, we had the first speaker was Mike Carr. The second speaker, I forget what her name was, but she talked about white privilege.
Yes.
Her speech was amazing. Absolutely amazing. And I personally think she should have won first place. However, she received actual death threats from Toastmasters because of the content of her speech. They don't want to hear about white privilege. They don't want to be knocked off of their comfort zone. And so that's probably why she didn't win second. I received the same thing. I gave a speech about get out of your comfort zone. And it was actually at a humorous club. And they had round robin evaluations. And one Toastmaster, I don't know his name, but he was very powerful. And he actually had been noted that he helped Michael Natoro become the international president. He was somebody in Toastmasters. He stood up, and because I touched him so deeply, he actually said, Cynthia, I want to slash your tires in the parking lot. This from a Toastmaster. I want to slash your tires in the parking lot. We were so shocked. I was shocked. Everyone was shocked. Nobody said anything. They just pretended it didn't happen.
Wow.
But this is what's there. And that's why I'm a Toastmaster. I am in it to change it. We have got to change the consciousness of humankind so that no one makes a death threat because of what you said. And it was probably an American. And we have, quote, freedom of speech. But that doesn't mean that people aren't going to give you death threats. I want to change that. I want to live in the world where we don't have death threats, where we don't have people threatening to slash your tires because of what you said. I'm going to say it again. Only reason to speak is to change the world.
Beautiful. There's a moment of silence, and I can see so much of seriousness on everybody's face. It is that seriousness which also expresses that we are seriously enjoying this show today, Old is Gold. And the two stars, the two celebrities who are with us, they seriously brought so much of change in us. We have dignitaries staying back till now, our CGD, our PQD from District 80. That itself proves that we are going great. But everything has to come to an end, and this show must end a few minutes from now. Thank you very much. Round of applause to Cynthia and Savarna. Thank you. With all this emotions, I give the floor back to our President and CGD, Khalid Abdallah.
Thank you so much, Master of Ceremonies, panel moderator, DTM, Ali Shahbaz, our immediate past Region 11 advisor. What a spot to leave me with. All of the words that should have been said already by the leaders of the hour today, Toastmaster It's one man, Toastmasters, DTM, Cynthia. Thank you so much, both of you, for being a great motivator for all of us. Before I move on to just small token of appreciation for both of our speakers, I will jump into our Vice President of Public Relations, who has been really seriously working so hard behind something that she wants to present. And not only that, yesterday I also would like to also apologize for her. Yesterday she sent me whatever she is showing us in a while, and she said, DTM Khalid, why aren't you responding to me? Unfortunately, my day was so hectic yesterday that I could not really respond to the thing that she came for. But let me just give her a few minutes to present what I'm talking about, and then you would know that how apologetic I should be right now. DTM Zahra, floor is yours.
Thank you, DTM Khalid, our club president, fellow Toastmasters, and our special guests. Good evening to you all. It's my great pleasure today to share with you our, let's say, the entire achievement since the beginning of the term till today. So I created this club newsletter, and I would like to share with you the content. As you can see at the top, we do have the physical meeting group photo and then the virtual meeting group photo. Then moving to the next, we do have the club XCOM and the table of content. Bahrain Advanced Toastmasters Club is the first advanced Toastmasters club in the Middle East. And this is our immediate past region 11 advisor message. We do have the message from the PQD and the CJD, and he's the club president as well. Here, a message from the area director, and congratulations to DTM Farhaz. He represented BAT, Bahrain Advanced Toastmasters Club in the area and division. Then we do have a few DTMs who achieved the DTM for the first time and one for the second time, who's DTM Ali Shahbaz, and for the first time DTM Hamid and DTM Shifdaz. We would like to share with you group photo that for the joint meeting with Timber Talker from Kuwait and Fusion Inspired from Malaysia. I was about to say Maldives. Yeah, from Malaysia. Then we do have few tips how to improve your public speaking, and few more tips on how to be from club coach to a club president. This is the oldest gold series from September till March. All the speakers, we highly appreciate all your effort, and of course, by the end of this month, we will create another newsletter, and we would love to have your special photos as an input there. More articles from the club members, and here we would like to share with you the group photos since 2004 till 2021. Few more topics, and yes, this is please feel free to join us on our social media platform. Thank you so much, and back to you, Mr. President.
Well, now you know why I should be apologizing for this leader in front of us. Please give her another round of applause. Thank you so much, DTM Zahra, Vice President of Public Relations. Thank you so much, DTM Farhaz as well, Vice President of Education. And thanks for all members of the XCOM and all of the members who joined today. You made it. This is the image that we want to project as Bahrain Advanced Toastmasters Club members. Thank you so much. Let's move on to the most exciting part, appreciation. Saying thanks to those who came, one from Asia, one from America, to join us here in Bahrain Advanced Toastmasters Club. And with this, I would like to ask our Vice President of Education if you can share while I go on. Toastmaster. Okay, DTM Cynthia first. DTM Cynthia, What a wonderful workshop. You spoke from the heart. I know that you had a structure, the start with why, humor, vulnerability, and all of your awesomeness, and even the delivery, the words, the choice of words. Great. Thank you so much for being here with us. And please accept this small token of appreciation from Bahrain Advanced Toastmaster members for your participation in today's workshop. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Move on to the next Toastmaster, Swarnra. Well, what can I say about what you said? You made evaluation even more interesting. I think the title, art, yes, you were honestly an artist, and you showed us so many things, the types of evaluation, performance evaluation, respond, learning, impact. I liked the preparation. I like the sheet that you sent. What did I say? What have I heard? How did I feel? It's truly, you made us feel like evaluation is really important right now. And thanks for also responding to my tricky question of saying you have to change the ballots. And I thought, well, okay, she would just go saying, well, no, Toastmaster International is the best thing in the world, so we don't need to change it. But you showed us that you are a leader, and change is ingrained within leaders. Thank you so much, Toastmaster Swanwa, for the lovely workshop and the lovely personality that you brought here today in Bahrain Advanced Toastmaster Club. And please accept this small token of appreciation from Bahrain Advanced Toastmaster Club members. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you. We do also apologize. We ran out of time by 11 minutes, but it was really energetic workshop. We could not really, I personally did not feel the time. The time the flow very fast. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining here. It's not an official meeting, so there is nothing to adjourn as such, but I would call this as a closed or adjourned meeting, but we don't want to fail from hearing from our guests. I know the last time, and just for the sake of making a humor, as DTM Cynthia said, the last time I started with the workshop with the oldest gold, and there were only 4 guests. And I started asking guests to introduce themselves. And by the time the bus arrived, yes, DTM Cynthia, there were around 20 guests. And I could not really feel it's right to just stop for those who came in. So I went on asking guests to introduce themselves, and that took by itself 15, I think, minutes that day. So I said, okay, this is lessons learned. I would just push for the guest introduction toward the end of the meeting, hoping that some of the guests would stay. I managed to interact with some of the guests during the meeting, just to make sure that we have some of the guests around. But please, this is the time to hear from the guest. And if there is any last remarks from anyone in here, please shoot. We are here to hear from you. Floor is open. DTM Cynthia, why did I feel that you were about to say something?
I was trying to chat. Well, let me see what I was going to say in the chat. Thank you so much to Mohammed Vikarudian for connecting us and inviting us. Without you, this would not have happened. There's so many people that made it happen, but you were the linchpin in the beginning. And I just so appreciate you inviting us. And Swarna, thank you for coming. I needed another speaker, and a speaker, I just thought about you, and I loved your art of evaluation, and I want you to teach that again at Leaders Worldwide, and especially the cross-cultural aspects. These are so important because at Leaders Worldwide, we have 33 countries and 15 US states represented, and we need to be sensitive to the differences in cultural, even individual cultural, much less all those countries. And just thank you to Bahrain Advanced Toastmasters for having us here. I'm so honored I'm so honored, and that you took the time to make it work, because it was early morning for me and late night for Swarna and afternoon for you, and you had to change your time that you met. I just really, really appreciate that and all that you did to make this happen. I just thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you. We are honored, Diti and Santia, for being here.
Yeah,
on
thank you,
Toastmasters
thank you.
Rwanda.
I suppose we say shukriya, but shukran for whatever you have given us today. It has been great learning for me. Thanks to Cynthia for inviting me in here. Cynthia has something that she does at our club. She has something called as the virtual chocolate. And she gives all the guests a virtual chocolate, so actually we look forward to that, so when she says, hey guests, can you talk, everyone is raising hands for those virtual chocolates. So maybe you can take that also, so thank you so much. I would like to give virtual chocolate specifically to DTM Zara. I loved your idea of the newsletter. So thank you so much. It is great work. It's quite inspiring that a club can come up with something so beautiful. So this is a chocolate for you. I'm sending it virtually.
She deserves it. Yes, she deserves it. Yesterday it was really hectic. I had 2 contests, and then I had an open house in Clubhouse. So I was trying to catch up here and there between the contest, the WhatsApp, and I opened her WhatsApp. I saw the newsletter, but I could not go through it all. So I said to myself, okay, I'll come back to it. So she noticed that I opened the WhatsApp, and she says, DTM Khalid, why aren't you responding to me? And that's where I said, okay, I do apologize. And when I saw the newsletter, it was really amazing. Thank you so much, DTM Zahra. I can see Martin, Toastmaster Martin, opening his camera. Very nice to see new faces. Please, Toastmaster Martin, would you want to share a few words?
Yeah, it was nice to be in this meeting, because I was with Swarna yesterday night, and now I was almost like waking me up with you. And both, they were great speeches. And especially also with Cynthia, that I was with her in heart to heart. So I had excellent memories from that club. And your magazine is great. Where can I read it? Or is it in your Facebook, or where can I read your magazine?
Yes, I'll leave our vice president to public relation. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Martin, and we will publish it and I'll share it with you. So please feel free either to follow us.
Okay, thank you. I will follow you.
Contact details, so we will share it with you.
Thank you. Bye.
Great. Thank you so much, Toastmaster Martin.
When Toastmaster Martin opened his camera, I thought it's Antonio Banderas.
Amazing.
He's a famous celebrity, Toastmaster Martin, if you didn't know. Hollywood actor.
He's Antonio Banderas of Toastmasters.
He's a carbon copy, oh my God.
I would really fail not to hear from our PKD Jackson. I was really amazed by the time that he dedicated. I know how it feels being in the trio. It gets crazy, and especially this time right now in District 80, I think it's 12. Is it AM now? Should we say good morning?
Yes.
Good morning.
Thank you, President. I will just be brief. I finally get it that you're the CED. My gosh. More importantly, over 56 years of my life, 20 years in Toastmasters, the lesson I learned is this: nobody can ever get to know somebody well enough, but when you've seen life, you can size people up in a short space. Your being. So it's beyond techniques. I always believe that there's endless, and all those things matter, but the being of being calm and very relaxed about saying the things you say, Not that because I'm not calm and therefore I'm unstable, but we are all made different. When you realize that all of us are not as good as we think we are, neither are we as bad as we think we are. And likewise, that applies to the other party. So I look at Farhan, I didn't know he's DTM, I didn't know he's a district champion until I see the other information. Because the way he applies himself is like, he's not conscious, he didn't put on airs, right? So friends, we all learn from each other. Tomorrow is better than today. I just came from our Region 13 meeting in which Matt Kinsey, our first vice president, was there to share. One questioner, don't mention his name, in my opinion was rude. He says, no. Belief doesn't change anything. If you can't, you can't. Belief is just, he says, I believe I can be pregnant, but of course I cannot. So sometimes, depending on what you believe, it may not come true. That is not getting the point. Starts with believing. Starts with believing. Believing before saying. And then the right belief leads to the right doing and the right results. They are the natural order. But the obsession with techniques and makes you think, is there a technique for everything? No. I'll tell you, the champions are there. The moment, in that moment, all the training in their life is so authentic, right? So I enjoyed myself, tired as I am, but the spirit is burning because I hear Madam Cynthia, I hear Swana. That lady on TED Talk is my personal favorite on vulnerability. I don't feel vulnerable. They think I'm vulnerable because when I'm in the element, I do not know what fear is. I don't know what authenticity is. I'm just in tune with myself. I'm very impressed with this meeting. I think Zoom has opened up possibilities, but let's channel and harness our energies and activities so that we lead happy lives for our families in the other room and the people waiting for us.